Hi everyone, Taya here from Quilting Delights, and I'm here to share some great information with you today about how to use your BSR ruler work attachment with rulers. And I'm going to talk a little bit about setup in your bobbin before we get going. So the first thing I want to share with you is how to actually set your machine up for using the BSR ruler work attachments. The first thing you want to do is make sure that on your bobbin you have your thread long enough. On the Berninas, I think that the thread cutter cuts the thread a little bit short to be able to pull it up, so I always start with my thread a little bit longer and my needle in the up position and my foot in the up position. That allows me to get underneath here where I can see this and put it in. So I'm going to attach that. Remember, on the 7 series in particular, you have to close the door of your bobbin area or it's going to give you an error message. All right, the next thing we're going to do is do a quick short lesson on how to pull the thread up. So you want to always have your foot in the down position, then you want to have your needle up, needle down, and that allows you to move sideways and pull that bottom thread up, just like that. And when we designed these stitch regulator feet, we designed them with a slot for you to pull the thread off to the side. I always wrap my threads around my fingers, and you want to make sure that it's tight. If it's tight, that tells you that it's in the tension disc up above and you're ready to go. 2 other things that are important. You want to make sure that your needle is in the down position when it ends, and that's on your screen. You can see where that is. And you do not want to use the securing function. I always take a couple of extra stitches, but I don't like the securing function on my quilting. A lot of you do like the securing function, which is great, but you just want to know that you can go into settings here and turn that off. And I have mine turned off because I like to tie my threads and sew them away so it looks like like it's been hand quilted. Okay, so now we're ready to start quilting. Before we get going, let me just tell you a little bit about rulers and my thoughts about them. You know that we really like the Amanda Murphy rulers. And there are ones like the every angle ruler. This is one of my favorites. And I want to encourage you, Amanda Murphy has absolutely fabulous videos on how to use these. And I want to encourage you to watch her videos as well as watching ours. She does such a fantastic job with these. And she uses them on a sit-down Bernina, so it's a great support for you. She has another one called, it's a set of rulers, and it's called Every Curve. It's a set of 3 rulers, and we use these in our Starry Day, Starry Night quilt. That is one of the free quilt patterns that you get with the purchase of the BSR compatible attachment. Those are some of my favorites. The other thing I love about the Good Measure rulers is that they have a grip on the back of them, and they're 1/4 inch thick. You can get them for low shank and high shank, but we only carry the 1/4 inch thick long arm rulers. There's another set that we're going to talk about today, and that is So Kind of Wonderful. Many of you are familiar with So Kind of Wonderful because they do amazing pieced curving, and they have wonderful rulers, but now they've got the quilting rulers to go along with. And you'll see some pictures of their Metro rings, which is like a double wedding ring, but Metro rings. But the other thing that I love about the So Kind of Wonderful rulers is that they give you hands-on, quilting ideas for the rulers. And the rulers that they have match the curves of the patterns that you would purchase and make. So I love these. They're called QCR Curvet rulers, and there's a full-size one and a mini. Now, the only thing about the Curvet rulers is that they're super slick on the back. They don't have a coating, but we have a coating that you can put on, and it looks like this. It's got a rough surface. It's called Rough It Up Non-Slip Clear Adhesive Gripper Strips, and these are great not only for your rulers, for your long arm rulers, but they're also great for your acrylic rulers if you don't have if your rulers don't have a backing. You know how they can slide. This stuff now you can put it on the back and trim it to size, and it's perfect. It's see-through and it's thin. It's see-through and it's thin, so it's perfect. Okay, so that's the So Kind of Wonderful rulers. I also like Gina Perks. Gina Perks is a quilting designer, quilter. She does absolutely beautiful work, beautiful quilting work, And her rulers are designed with a hole in them. Let me move this out of the way. Her rulers are designed with a hole in them so that you can more easily grip. I don't know if you can see that, but they have a hole in them so that as you're quilting, you can grip the ruler and not lose your grip on the ruler. Sometimes these can be hard to hang on to. So I love that about hers. I also like that her rulers have a lot of reference lines on them. And I will say to you that if you're looking to purchase rulers, you want to make sure that you purchase rulers with reference lines, lots of reference lines and reference lines that you can see. An example, and I don't mean to be critical, but an example of what I would not purchase would be the Bernina rulers, because they have they don't have any straight reference lines across here. And they have very few reference lines on this ruler. So I don't like this one. I have it, but I don't care for it. I don't use it very often. And I do use the Amanda Murphy rulers. I use my Gina Perks rulers. Gina Perks, I love hers because she has several different styles with different shapes of curves, clamshells, and yes, you can do clamshells with your BSR ruler work attachment, so that's not a problem. You can do waves, you can do ribbons. Another one that I really, really like and use quite often are the Handy Quilter Handy Gadgets, and we don't sell these, but I have them because it has one of the nicest curves out there, and I love to do ribbons. So this one has a sharp, tall ribbon or wave, and this has a shallow wave. So you can either do rows of waves, or you can offset it by whatever the distance is, half. This one, for example, is from zero. This one from high point to high point is 6 inches. So you would do one curve, and then on the next row down, you would go 3 inches over and put the high point, and then do another curve, and it creates a ribbon. It's a really cool effect. The other thing that you can do is just do row after row of ribbon, this wave, with maybe 1/2 inch apart. So you're going to use your 1/2 inch reference lines, and you would just stack those so that instead of straight quilting, you would have wave quilting, which is a really cool way to do that. The other one that is pretty good, that has a little bit of everything, is the Eversewn Quilter's Resource Rulers. And this ruler has the grip on the back like the Amanda Murphy rulers, and it has some reference lines that are straight. What's great about this ruler is you can do angles, you can do straight lines, there's 2 different sets of straight lines, and you can do a curve. So this is a good one. Now the other thing that I look for is which rulers are made in America. That is just such a key issue for me, because I want to know that we're keeping our workers in their jobs. And the 2 companies that I can see from here that make their rulers, have their rulers made in the USA, are the So Kind of Wonderful, which are the curved rulers for the metro rings or the double wedding ring look, and the Amanda Murphy rulers. We love that Amanda Murphy rulers are made in the USA. So the other great thing about Amanda Murphy's rulers is that she has, I already told you, she has wonderful videos, but she has a ruler work quilting book that goes through a lot of the setup on your Bernina and how to use her rulers and some examples. And she has an idea book. Now this idea book is fabulous because it goes through several different renditions of outlining and doing squares, and it actually encourages you and pushes you to do not only ruler work but some free motion work as well. So we're going to do more of that as time goes by here, and the quilt that we're going to showcase that on for sure is a quilt called Windswept, and this is a quilt that we're doing here at the store in November. You can either do 1 flower, or you can do all 3 flowers, and the 3rd flower is split into 2. But you can see on here that all of this is straight line quilting, not all of it. A majority of this is straight line quilting, and then it's filled in with some free motion quilting. So we're making this quilt in class, but then in January we're going to do a segment on how to quilt this with your BSR ruler work attachment. It is a gorgeous, stunning quilt, and I would encourage all of you to take a look at it. We are considering whether we can do this as a Zoom class in November, and we'll have more information on that later. Okay, so that's a little bit about rulers and what to look for. And now I'm just going to do a little bit This is a Gina Perks ruler, and what I like about it is that I can do clamshells with this ruler. And the first thing I'm going to do is find where I want to start. Now, I probably didn't explain this, but it doesn't, when you're doing ruler work, sometimes you absolutely must mark your fabric because that's how you're going to line up your first set of lines. And you're always going to start at the bottom. The bottom is going to be on the right-hand side, and you're going to move your way to the left. The other way to do it is to start like this and move your way across like that. But you're always going to be moving from the bottom to the top because you've got to keep your reference lines going. Okay. So I'm going to show you one of the funnest and one of my favorite quilting techniques, which is doing clamshell quilting. It's a very traditional kind of pattern and takes a little bit of practice. So I've done a 14-inch square here, marked it with 1-inch grid lines because I'm doing a 1-inch clamshell. If you're doing a 3-inch clamshell, then you would only need to mark your lines every 3 inches. So when I say a 1-inch clamshell, what I mean is from this point to this point is going to be 1 inch, 2 inches, because the height of it is going to be at 1 inch. And you can see there's a reference line that lines up all the way across here, and there's a reference line that lines up in the middle of each of these clamshells. So I've already done my setup. My needle is going to stop in the down position. Away from this, I did my foot down, and that way I could come over to the ruler without bringing my foot down on the ruler. You never want to do that. And I did my needle up, needle down. I've got both of my threads. I am starting at the bottom of the block and I'm working my way up. Now the other thing I want to just share with you real quick is I take my foot pedal off my machine. I unplug it because the tendency is, we've been sewers and quilters all of our lives, the tendency is to want to push that foot pedal. And you have to remember the only thing driving this stitch regulator is the speed at which you move the fabric. So if you're quilting and you accidentally hit your foot pedal, what it's going to do is turn the stitch regulator off, and then you're going to be irritated because you're going to have to pick it all out and do it again. So the easier thing to do is just take the foot pedal off and don't worry about it. I'm set at 2.0. I am on a 14-inch square because I'm going to cut an inch off either side to make it a 12.5-inch square when I'm done and finish at 12 inches. And we are ready to go. So I have my grips on. I'm using a Gina Perks ruler. This ruler is called the Grid Collection Jane, and it has the clamshells that are going to do a 2-inch clamshell, 1 inch tall, 1 inch on either side. Okay, and here we go. I'm going to push the button, activate it, and then I'm just going to follow at an angle because we want that stitch regulator foot to go all the way in. Yep, there's my angle. And I'm holding the ruler at the front and the back, and I'm just slightly pushing against the ruler so that you can see. And it doesn't matter how fast or slow I go, that's the beauty of the stitch regulator. And there I'm done. I'm going to hit stop, and it's going to stop with the needle in the down position. And look how absolutely gorgeous those turned out. My stitches are equal, my height is good, I've got a really nice even flow to this. So yay for the Bernina stitch regulator compatible ruler work feet. Now all I'm going to do is just release my thread, put my foot up, and break my threads long. Hopefully I've quilted enough that it's going to be in the seam. Okay, so we've got one row of our clamshells done, and I'm just going to show you real quick how to line up the second row. It's kind of odd, and I like the fact that I have to think about this and actually look at it. You can start off the edge if you want to. I think it's easier to actually start where your needle position is going to be, but what you want to notice here is that now the valley in the ruler is going to be at the peak of the clamshell from the row before. And so we just line up our reference lines right here. Line up your reference line. Make sure you've got your lines, your reference lines vertically as well. And then you're just going to stitch the next row and it will match up perfectly, and then you're going to offset. Now, you'll notice on this particular one that you have to move the ruler. So when you get to, I would say when you get to this one here, don't work off the end of your ruler. Never work off the end of your ruler. You want to stop 1 or 2 before the end of the ruler. Turn your BSR off. It's going to stop with the needle in the down position. You can shift your ruler to the next spot and work the rest of it off the edge of the quilt or the quilt block that you're working on. So those are just some helpful hints there. You can also go to the website. Gina Perks has great videos, as well as Handy Quilter and Amanda Murphy and Eversewn, and there's tons of support to learn how to use these rulers. We just want to show you how to use the BSR attachment. Okay. Next, we're going to do a wave, and the same thing here. You're going to line up, find a reference point on your ruler that you want to stick with. Now, if you wanted to do these 3 inches apart or inch apart or make a shallow wave, sometimes what I'll do is put a piece of blue tape on here so I remember which line I'm using as a reference. So that's an idea too. I'm going to use, I don't know what that is, but we'll just go with it. Again, you're going to put your foot down, and we're off the ruler right now. I don't want you to put your foot down unless you're off the ruler. So you're going to put your foot down, position over to the ruler, then do needle up, needle down, and move away. Pull your bobbin thread up. We know that the thread is in the correct position. If I can just grab it. That's the problem with white thread. You can't always see it. And I'm going to move right back to where I was. Make sure that my line, so I'm checking this reference line on the line that I've drawn. Grab my thread, and then I'm going to turn my stitch regulator on. And this one is easy because you never have to stop. And that needle is exactly 1/4 inch from, now I was talking and not sewing. So I'm just going to move my ruler over. It's not going to be right. Actually, I would pick this out and do it again. So don't talk to anybody when you're quilting. It's really important that you focus. So I'm going to do this again, just so we can see. You always want to be pushing against that ruler gently. Pushing against the ruler gently. Now, I'm going to stop, and I'm going to move my hand down, because part of the problem is if you leave your hands too far away, then the ruler, the BSR ruler work attachment, compatible attachment, is going to be pushing that ruler away. You want to keep your hands really close to where you're working. So always know just like that. And you always want to know where that on-off button is. It's really important. Before you pull your work away, remember to raise your foot so that it releases the thread and allows you to pull it and cut it. And I think that looks pretty cool. So the next thing I would do is I would offset this so that, notice that we're 1/4 inch away. We need to be 1/4 inch away the other way in order for this to be a ribbon. And I'm lining up my low point with where I had lined up my high point. So again, foot down, and then grab your thread, needle up, needle down, move away, pull your bobbin thread to the top. You can't do quilting without holding on to both of your threads when you start. It's really, really important that you do that. Double check that your ruler's lined up where you want it, and push the go button, and we're off. And now we're doing a ribbon. So I'm going to stop here, turn my machine off, and then I'm going to line up with where I was before. Oops, I want to be in this valley. So this is why you always want to do a practice one on scrap, and I'll show you what mine looks like here. And I'm going to do needle up, foot up, and you can see that it makes a really, really cool ribbon. Now you can quilt a ribbon all the way across a block and it'll turn out absolutely beautiful. So that's a great way to accent a block or to add to your borders. But my scrap, where did my scrap one go? Let me show you what it looks like. On any given day, I have stuff all over my blocks. This is, I don't know what size this is, but I just use muslin. And I will practice and get my mind into the right mindset. You can see here when I started doing the clamshells that I didn't quite understand until the third run how to set those up to match. So practicing is really important, and it will make your quilting so much better. You can't just jump into it. We didn't learn to drive a car the first time we jumped into a car, and quilting does take a little bit of practice. I just want to point out that when you look at my ribbon, you can see that it's not quite straight and it's not exactly even. And part of that is because as much as I love these rulers, and I like this particular one a lot, it doesn't have a grip on the back. So that's where putting this grip tape on the back of it would have helped me to keep that more consistent. So just remember, this is called Rough It Up tape because it creates a rough surface on the back side to hold on to your fabric as you're quilting. I want to thank all of you for joining us today. Stay tuned for more as we get more projects and ideas available for you. Okay. Don't forget to check out the Amanda Murphy website, Handy Quilter website, Gina Perks, the Copper Needle website for great videos and support on how to use their rulers. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and like us on Facebook, and share with your friends. We'll talk to you soon. Happy quilting!